So the transfer window has shut. Yes, it has. And already I'm seeing the inquests begin. Is this a successful transfer window or is it another one that got away? I'll be breaking that down because for me, I think it meets somewhere in the middle. Now, Tottenham Hotspur had a real opportunity here. It seemed like we had a lot of money to spend, and it seemed like at one point that we were going to spend it. 70 million for Savio, that we were told there was money for Akliouche, we were told there was money for Lookman, money for Zabanyi, all of these different players. And in the end, I feel like we went quite light. Now, let me start with the positives. And almost, I'll be honest, now the window's shut, I feel this sense of, I don't know, I just feel this sense of relief, if I'm honest. The transfer windows for me, being a Spurs fan, I find quite difficult because they always promise a lot and then I'm not sure if they always deliver that. Now, let's start with the positives because I've had loads of people messaging me going, what a great window. And I'm saying, okay, yeah, it's good. It's good. But again, as Spurs fans, we are milking it purely because we've done what most teams our size would normally do. And what we've done is we've taken that and gone, oh my God, it's amazing. This is the best window in my lifetime. But a transfer window isn't just incomings. It is incomings, it is outgoings, and it is squad planning and squad building. And this is what I was speaking to somebody yesterday about on WhatsApp. When people are saying, yeah, but look at the 4 players we got. Sure, but you have to look at who's gone out as well and where are we in terms of each position on the pitch going into what could be a 60-game season. Now, it could be, it might not be. Obviously, depends on how far we go into each competition. So let's start with the positives. First of all, I think the 4 players they brought in, no problems with at all. I think we all know that Kudus, as a right winger, we haven't really had a good right winger for a very long time. I've never really considered Kulusevski to be a right winger. I think he can play out there, he can operate out there, and he does a job. But for me, he just doesn't quite cut the mustard as a actual right side winger. So bringing Kudus in was brilliant. He's strong, he's quick, technical. He's got a few assists already. He's got great footwork. He can drive you up the pitch. But the problem is you couldn't just get him because what we've seen already, he is the only outlet, or has been to date, should I say, the only outlet, and teams are doubling up on him. It's clear to see if you actually watch from a kind of coaching, tactical standpoint every game, teams are doubling, tripling up on Kudus. And then fans are going, oh, what's he done today? It's like, well, come on, they're trebling up on him. So Kudus for me, really, really good signing. No problems with that at all. Very, very happy. Now let's go to the next one, Paulinho. Now, Paulinho on a loan, absolutely superb as a defensive midfielder. He's the guy for me. I wanted at DM. I've got no problem with it. Top player. And it's very important to remember he's on loan. And I'll come back to that a bit later because I thought that the reason we got players on loan and kicked the can down the road in those positions was so that we could spend elsewhere. And that's what frustrated me about this window. But we'll come back to that a bit later. So Paulinho, we know what he is. We know what he isn't. He's not the guy that's going to get on the ball and be this maestro passing the ball about. He's not a Rodri. He's not a guy that's going to dictate play. But what he will do is break up play. He sits in front of that back 4. He wins his tackles. He wins his duels. And then he gives the ball to somebody a bit more capable. So for me, that was a brilliant signing on loan with an option to buy. Can't see anything wrong with that. Top signing. So far, 2 signings, brilliant. Then we move to the needle mover, the real needle mover for me, that is Xavi Simons. Now, the question here with Xavi Simons, and we'll talk about this a bit later, is was Xavi Simons bought purely because of the injury to Maddison, or would Spurs have added him to add real quality even if Maddison had stayed fit? As I said, we'll come to that a bit later. But Xavi Simons as a player is a needle mover, technically gifted. He's slight on the ground. He's got really good low centre of gravity, good dribbling, good passing, good assists, good goal scoring. And for me, I do think he'll be a revelation in the Premier League. Now, whether that's immediately within his first 3 months, we will see. Of course, fans won't give him that 3 months, but let's see. For me, a top signing, a player that Bayern Munich attempted to get this window and Chelsea neither got them and Tottenham did. So for me, absolutely brilliant signing. That's free for free. Then you look at Colomawani, and again, Colomawani on his own, good signing. Don't get me wrong, I'm not going to go overboard. I'm not going to sit here and go, oh my God, he's the greatest striker we could have got. And the questions are already being asked. Would we have got Colomawani if the news didn't break that apparently, big word, apparently Solanke is injured for 2 to 3 months? We'll come back to that a bit later, as always. But looking at the positive, he is a much better striker than Solanke and Ritchie. That, for me, is worth its weight in gold. So bringing him on a loan is a no-brainer. Now, there are fans questioning his commitment. Why is it only a loan? Why is there no option or obligation to buy? But right now, he does fill a gap that, for me, that we really had. Because Richarlison, I've said for years, I don't rate him in any way, shape or form. He gets a world-class goal every now and then and people lose their minds. But for me, other than the work rate, I don't think there's a footballer there. I've never thought there is. And Solanke, I think he's a very average striker. People say you're being too harsh, Sava. Am I? He's 28 years of age this month, and we've seen him have one good season in the top flight. So for me, that was an upgrade. Now, those 4 on their own, a standout, if you isolate those 4, and I know this is really difficult for people to do, if you isolate those 4, absolutely fantastic window. Now, I'll come to the other side of it in a minute. In isolation, those 4 are great. Now, here is the negative side to it for me. 1, I have said it's utter negligence and incompetence from Tottenham this transfer window to not replace Son, to not replace the goals and assists. Now, that's not to say I wanted to keep Son. This is really important that people get the difference here. Son needed to go. He wasn't the Son of old. He was still getting some goals and assists, but he wasn't the Son of old, and he wasn't having the same impact as before. But to not replace him is utterly shocking. And the fact that we have started the season with Brennan Johnson as our left-sided player, and then the players coming on in his replacement are Odegaard and Tell, that tells me everything I need to know about the incompetence of this transfer window from the left-sided position. Really, really poor from Spurs, that. Tried for Savio. Apparently, we tried for Lookman, but they wanted 43 million and we wouldn't pay it, which beggars belief if that is true. I don't know if that's true, but if it is, that is shocking. 43 million for a player of that quality is absolutely nothing in this day and age. Again, Fofana reports yesterday that we went for Malik Fofana of Lyon, but that we went for him on the last day of the window, and that both the player and the club said, you've left it too late. You've left it too late. You've not allowed us time to replace him. Come back another time. That, for me, again, is negligent and incompetence. How did Spurs, in the whole transfer window, not go and get Malik Fofana if he was one of your targets? Again, people keep saying these words are harsh, but it is incompetent. So we didn't replace Son on the left-hand side. Now, if I was going to be really critical, I could say, well, we only got Simmons and Mawani because of injuries. So we didn't actually plan on building the squad. Now, listen, I've got no way of knowing that's the truth, neither of any of you. But it is what Spurs do. So did we just get those players in to replace injured footballers? Or would we have done that even if those players hadn't been injured? I don't know. I'm not sure. So that's the left side. For me, I think we're one short in midfield. I'll be honest, I don't think that Bentancur or Paulinho have got the legs to play most games this season. Sarr, the jury's out for me. Good footballer in certain games. I think he's good in those games where we don't have the football. When we do have the football, for me, just technically not good enough. And Bergvall and Gray, still kids. Gray, I've said all along, isn't good enough. Bergvall, I think, will be good enough. But right now, I think we need to see him develop. And hopefully Thomas Frank will do that this season. But for me, I think that leaves us pretty light in midfield. And maybe, just maybe, it's a blessing Basuma has stayed for the time being, because obviously we know he might be going to Turkey and the Turkish window shuts later than the English window. So they could still come in and buy him. So for me, just a little bit light in midfield. Very, very poor options on the left-hand side in Odegaard, Johnson and Tell. And at the back, lots of people, all windows said, Thomas Frank wants another centre-half. We've been linked with De Winter. He went to Milan. We've been linked with Akanji. He ended up at Inter Milan. We've been linked with Zabanyi. He ended up at PSG. We've been linked with Collins, who got given the captaincy at Brentford. And in the end, we didn't buy anyone there. So for me, I think we're a tad light at centre back. I think we're light in centre mid, and I think we're really poor on the left wing. Now, as I said, it depends how you want to carve this window up, because if I now look at the outgoings, Spurs have sold 2 players this window, Son and Brian Hill, for 28 to 30 million pounds. Solomon went on loan, again, another loan. And for me, a window, as I've said, is not just incomings, it's outgoings as well. So for me, I think it was really poor on that front. So for me, I can isolate the different areas. I think the incomings were brilliant. I think the outgoings were very poor. And I think it was incompetent to not get the areas we needed going into a Champions League campaign. So for me, because of all of that, I've put the window at a 7 out of 10. I think this could have been a 10 out of 10 window had Spurs had pushed the boat out. Spurs, for me, the money was there. We could have got the left winger if there was any urgency. Put it this way, in the last 53 days of a 92-day window, Spurs signed 1 player with money going out, and that was Simmons. In 53 days, we only spent money on 1 player. Yes, I know there's a couple of loan fees, but you know what I mean. So for me, I think this is a window where we've done really well, but really missed an opportunity to kick on and close the gap. I really, really do. But that's not saying it's a bad window. There's no meltdown. There's no drama. But could Spurs have pushed the boat out and gone a little bit further than they did? Let me know your thoughts. I'd be interested to know what you think the window is out of 10. As I said, I'll give it a 7. I think a Lookman or Savio would have made it an 8. And maybe a couple more players leaving would have made it a 9 or a 10. But it is what it is. We are where we are. And at least now, going forward, we should see a lot better with Simmons, Kudus and Mawani. But that left-hand side worries me because Tell is poor. Odegaard, seeing nothing from him. And Johnson, when he's not tapping balls in from 6 yards, really isn't a good footballer. So 7 out of 10 for me. The word I'm going to use is good, a good window. I'm not getting excited. I'm not downbeat on it. It is what it is. But for me, I think this is going to be an opportunity missed. Let me know your thoughts. Take care. And as always, come on, you Spurs.